The news of the morning leaves us no hope of peace, and every reason to believe that Louisiana will soon be attacked by the enemy.
The United States had gone to war with England in 1812, shortly after Louisiana became a state. Within 2 years, Washington, D.C. had been invaded and burned to the ground by British troops. New Orleans knew that she might soon face the same fate.
Louisiana's strategic importance in the War of 1812 depended almost solely on the significance of the Mississippi River. Control of the Mississippi in a time when water power was the most popular form of transportation in the South and in the interior of America was essentially to control the commerce and defense of the continent. So Louisiana was of utmost strategic importance.
General Andrew Jackson, known as Old Hickory, was dispatched to New Orleans, commanding an army of seasoned riflemen from Tennessee and Kentucky. Once there, they prepared to meet one of England's most formidable generals, Sir Edward Pakenham. But it wasn't just the approaching British army that concerned Old Hickory.
When Jackson first came to Louisiana, when he first came to New Orleans, he was worried that many of the Louisianians would turn against them and side with the British, and that would ultimately lead to defeat on the part of the Americans. It was a concern he probably should not have had. If the French in New Orleans didn't like the Americans, they hated the English more.
Instead of treachery, Jackson found his ranks growing with volunteers from the Louisiana militia. Acadians and Indians, Creoles and free people of color, all stepped forward to defend the young state. General Jackson even managed to secure the loyalties of Jean Lafitte and his small army of pirates, the Baratarians. Lafitte was one of America's most wanted criminals. But in the face of invasion, all differences were put aside and a pardon was promised.
This was the turning point of my career and the best moment of my life when I decided once and for all to drive the English beasts from American soil.
After weeks of skirmishes, the main force of General Pakenham's army advanced toward New Orleans. Amidst thick fog on the morning of January 8, 1815, American troops engaged the enemy on the Chalmette plantation. British forces in the Louisiana campaign had totaled 14,000. The American army numbered only 5,000. Jackson's prospects for victory looked grim. All through the night before, nuns, laywomen, and children knelt in the Ursuline convent praying for a miracle. They got it. British casualties were staggering. 2,037 killed, wounded, and captured. Jackson tallied the number of his men killed at 7. What no one realized was that a peace treaty between the British and the Americans had been signed on Christmas Eve, 2 weeks before the Battle of New Orleans. Word did not reach the generals in time. The War of 1812 proved to the world that the United States was an independent nation with the power to defend itself. But the people of Louisiana had proved something too.
These are the saviors of their country. These the patriot soldiers who triumphed over the invincibles of Wellington and conquered the conquerors of Europe. You have secured to America a proud name among the nations of the earth, a glory which will never perish.
Diverse as they were, Louisianians of all kinds had come together as a united people to defend their homeland. But perhaps what surprised the Americans most was the number of free people of color who volunteered. 2 black battalions, over 600 men, served in the Battle of New Orleans. Black soldiers and white soldiers fighting alongside each other. This was something not seen elsewhere in America. From the first day when the United States flag was raised in New Orleans, free people of color presented a troubling question for the Americans.
What Claiborne and Wilkinson commented on at that ceremony as they